He's in like a third of the video, so we might lose him to the head stuff to hear him, and then we play the games with
actually, I've been working on a custom net this world.
Oh, yes. I can whatever
I don't want you to
Okay, so you got 50 million.
You got awesome resources, I guess.
Yeah, this is all resources too. Well, they like
They're probably just
so you can see that like
Oh, you are? Oh, okay. Yeah.
you might be trying to
I got one more out there. Okay. There's one. Yeah, you can.
Oh, it seems like so long.
Here we are. Yeah. It's accumulated. I was like, oh shoot.
There's a lot of
These Jonas leagues from like war and like
oh yeah.
Tiny nutsack. There it is. I downloaded it last night. Put it here. You can run it from that station. Oh, yeah, that would be a good spot. Oh, it's kind of short. Yeah, it is short.
We actually have 3 of these here, the power towers.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm trying to see where the third one went. So I only see 2.
It's okay. It's okay. Robert's in here. You want another extension cord? Yeah. I think it's
I think it clears it all. And it's like wrestling.
And then he was atmosphere, and then he was really he just like
Reds have a massive Blues have I was computer trying to avoid this plan. Blues don't fight. So if you want fast response time, red. You need to play a game that's not good. You're gonna make it technical. You can look them up on your
Once we get started, it'll have to.
Sorry. This sounds like one of my art video tutorial. She's coming at the event, and then she can't get it to work. She didn't practice it, and then drops the whole and that's how the
You don't understand it, they understand it. It's insufficient.
It's like half the tutorials on the blog, and I'm just like, nobody's saying. I'm following along on the screen on how they do like this thing in Maya or whatever program or Photoshop or whatever. I'm still that's why I'm like, can I connect to the network? You can't connect to the network. I'm trying. Which one is it?
It's your ego.
Oh no, which one? Because I kept my email just weird because I'm still getting stuff on like certain things.
Every year, just click X going.
I see. I did the same on Bill. They kept theirs. They had like the
Yes, but it's
it was like Bill's was PH and Jess kept it. Or I'm sorry, it was Cool. It was Cool. That was like, oh my god, then you have to teach it. Like,
there's a looking down the keyboard that says LEDs and light.
So I was playing it a little bit with
Yeah, this is the one that
found
this is what I paid for the flowers.
there's one that really goes. It actually is for reality layout.
I feel like radio except these like all those videos I was like, oh, okay.
Oh yeah. That was the woman's thing.
Yeah.
Oh no, that was oh no, really good. That whole it's still 6 years. 6 years. So annoying. That was so old.
Hey guys, sorry. Hey everybody. This mic is actually because we're connected to our Hilo campus, so we don't need speakers in here.
Chris, could you stand here? Because the camera is there.
Thank you for. Okay, so my name is Chris Lee. I'm the director of the Academy for Creative Media. We're really excited to have Carl Coward back with us for a second time. It was 2 years ago, I think, this year. And I'm so glad to see this incredible turnout. We're going to have a really fun day today. I'm just curious, how many folks are from UH? If you could just raise your hands. Okay. And how many folks are from high school or middle school? Elementary? Elementary, that's awesome. Yeah. And how many people are from local tech companies? Okay, all right, great representation. We're a very full house. My understanding is we have 120 bentos coming. I'm sorry, Philo, I don't know if you have bentos or not. But so they really take care of everything, and we're really delighted. Carl will talk a little bit about Unity when he gets up here. But obviously, it's been a great partnership for us, and we're grateful that he's here. So, Carl Coward.
Okay. Yeah, nothing special here. But today we're going to talk about how we make VR games, and I'm going to take you through a process, hands-on how we make a VR game. Does everybody hear me in the back? No? Okay, I'm going to try. If I speak like this, you hear me? Yeah, I'm going to try to speak loud and run back and forward to the laptop. But, so, I'm Garrett Collawart, I work at Unity Technologies. I work already 6 years, or almost 7 years at Unity Technologies. Who has never used Unity before? Raise your hand. Okay, so about a third, okay. Who's intermediate with Unity? Yes. Who's an expert? And who has already made a game with Unity? Yeah. Well, I want to see it then. And who has already made a VR game? And I started to ask all those questions because then I can better profile which I want to talk about. And who has already used an Oculus? For the people who didn't use it yet, you can watch that this one. No, you can use it. So there's all games on the Oculus Store. You can definitely use it. If you never use it, it will be like wow moment. It's one of the most awesome things. Okay. So VR and AR really at the revolution. A lot of people start to hear about it or actually use it. Okay. But AR and VR exists only a long time. Okay. A long time ago, I studied masters in VR, but I can tell you, everything what I learned, I can throw it out the window. This doesn't apply anymore today. But this was there's not a GoPro. This was in the 60s. But what's really interesting is that at Unity, what we talked about is that it is so important to understand that there's revolution on AR because when electricity came out, that really changed the way we start to work. We work longer hours, but it really changed everything, how we manage our time. When the combustion engine came out, it changed again, transportation changed. When the TV came out, advertising changed. When the iPhone came out, the first one, and the tablets came out, everything changed. Everybody changed their schedule, their behavior, the text messaging, I will be late, is a normal thing now. And the boss not. Okay. But VR and AR belong to that same category. They really will change profoundly how we learn, how we share information, how we travel. And that's why at Unity we take it very serious. And we have put a lot of effort in it. You might have read on the internet, we are putting $180 million again in our VR department, an AR department. But it's not just us, people who make the games are convinced, it's also people who are consuming it are super convinced. And we see when the first time we put on AR or VR device, listen to the words and the language behavior, the body language, they wow, and they are totally convinced to use it. Who has ever played the video game Job Simulator? Okay. You played it already, wow. Yeah, my daughter of 9 years old played it too. And when my wife said you have to go to bed, my daughter, no, you don't understand, I have to go back to the job. So, of course, there's a lot of questions, which kind of hardware and which kind of VR hardware will win on this market. But currently we see a lot of mobile VR. And people using the Google Cardboard or Gear VR to use its high quality. But of course, when you look at the higher end VR and AR devices such as Oculus, Vive, HoloLens, the experiences are amazing. But the problem is that sometimes it's hard for people to get. It's a bigger investment. So that's why the market share is still smaller. Okay. No, there's a lot of predictions on market value and the growth of everything. Right? What they see is that the AR market will be bigger than the VR market, the prediction. It's a huge market. But one thing that we don't agree with Unity is and this prediction is this. A lot of predictions predict a linear growth of the market in AR and VR. With Unity, we actually think that this will actually be more like this. And what we mean with that is actually the gap of disappointment. Okay? That the uptake of sales will be a little bit slower, but then very fast because everything is still in development. Hey, look at a year ago, the Oculus had no Oculus touches. There were no input devices. Everybody who put on the headset on, the first thing they did, they put their hand in front and they tried to grab something. Now that it's starting to change. And some APIs are now available, and before that, not that. So it's a heavy change. So that's why we think there will be a gap of disappointment. But together with our partners, and we strongly believe in inventing the future, and we work together on that. Right? Think about Google has 5 million Google Cardboards out there, and there's 5 million Unity users. Okay? We have a very strong relationship with Oculus Facebook. Okay? And we also have very lucky, we have actually Facebook attending, and John from Facebook, not Facebook itself. Yeah. But John will talk later on a little bit more about our relationship and what the benefits of that are. Okay. Now, if you've never heard of Unity or never really worked with it, there's 3 pillars we always stand behind. It's democratization. Unity wants to make sure that everybody has access to the software and can make games. That's why we have a free version. You download it, and you can make a game, and you can make it commercially. And then we have a pro version, and we have a plus version. Okay. But it's also solving hard problems. Like having real-time global illumination graphics is very difficult to program. That's why we hire the best teams around the world, so you have access to it, that you can do it as an individual, or in a team, or in a larger company, so you don't have to hire a team to make it work. And then the last pillar we added on was a year ago, 2 years ago, is enabling success. Enabling success means that if you make a game, and it's already hard enough, well, another important thing is that how are you going to monetize on that? And that's why we created like the ability in Unity, you can actually also ads on there when you create a game. Very fast click, integrate ads, and you monetize from that. We also have made it Unity, like a web page where you can promote your games onto the market. And then there's other things we integrated, like analytics, being able to understand your players, or heat maps. Heat maps like are, you've never heard of you've never seen a heat map in a game. What that means is like you can see for thousands of people who play your game where they walk. And a nice example of a video game was they couldn't understand why the players always die so fast. And then they found out when they looked at the heat map that they had forgotten on the platform to walk around to put colliders so everybody fell off all the time. But if you don't have analytics, you don't know how your players are playing the game. So those are all little things that we added. Okay, there's a lot of mobile games right now out that are using Unity. You might have heard of them. PC, awesome games. If you never heard of that game, it's time to fly. Okay. Has 10 million, more than insane users. A lot of console games are using Unity, but also now VR and AR games. Okay. So Lucky Tail is one of those big examples. And we're gonna be able to play it too. And we're gonna base the game today. We're gonna make based on Lucky Tail. And some people say, "But hey, you don't use the touches or you don't use some controllers." No. Why is that? Because not everybody has them. Only a few select people have those input devices. So we're gonna focus on input devices that you currently can have access to. But also in the AR game, one of the biggest games with Unity is Pokemon Go. If you never heard of Pokemon Go, yeah, Hawaii, nobody heard of Pokemon Go? No, here's the thing. A lot of people thought that VR is a spin-off of gaming. And you make games, and then you're going to make the VR. But in reality, it's just the opposite. VR is at the center, and VR will be used for so many different things in AR that movies are a spin-off of that, games are a spin-off of that. And that's why Unity, we are focusing heavily on all those different markets in the VR and AR, but our passion is always video games. That's why we work with our partners. Okay. And one thing I want to point out, what does that mean, work with our partners? Yeah, it's the coding. aspect and marketing aspect. Of course, we were to do shows together. That's why Facebook is here together. But the coding part is what I really like. Is that now I'm going to go a little bit technical, but you have when we work together, we put the code together, and then that's how we enable also single pass rendering and sharing occlusion calling from one eye to the other eye. And those are very technical terms, and over time we're gonna in the workshop we're gonna try to cover that all. So, as I said, Facebook is here, but how do you connect actually to Rift? It's super simple. If you have Unity and you have a Rift, you just plug it in, and the only thing you have to install is a runtime of Oculus, and that's it. And in Unity, you press one button, basically one button here, and that's that button, support virtual reality. And then automatically everything works. Okay? That means you put the headset on, you click that button, and when you use your headset to rotate, the camera in the game already is using that input. That's it. Okay? But of course, it comes with difficulties that we can explain that later on. It's the same with the Gear VR. You install your Oculus runtime. We have to install a few more little details. Okay, everything is very nice explained on the Gear VR website, those things. But of course, I will be sharing my PowerPoint later on. You can use that then. But then there's if you're going to go to a lot of presentations, they're going to talk a lot about optimization settings, import settings, all those things. You don't have to worry about that, the import settings, because it's all automatically done. In our collaboration with Facebook, we made sure that we understand what the settings all have to be, and it's taken care of. We also support our Google Cardboard. We are working on also the import settings and the plugin. So you don't have to look on the internet or the App Store to find plugins to make it work. We also support the PS. We also support HoloLens. We also support the Vive for room scale VR. Right now it's an App Store package, that means you have to download it separately. But we are working, like with Facebook, it's natively integrated. Who's aware of the Asset Store in Unity? Raise your hand. Okay. The Asset Store is a store where you can buy external content. Like say, I need 3D content, or I need audio files, or I need a character with animations, or I need a full game. That store sells thousands and thousands of packages. What we've seen is then that in that store, people are starting to always adding also VR packages to that. Okay. So you can find all VR solutions there too. Okay. Because there's a lot of VR devices that are out there at the market that we don't have always a partnership with. But they can add their solution and their plugins onto on our store. No, I'm going to skip this because it's too technical. Okay. All the different platforms we support, but remember with the Oculus you have to use Windows. Okay. This is the most important thing from whole VR and AR is the frame rate. A lot of video games are 30 or 60 frames a second. With VR, when you use the Vive or the Oculus, you better reach minimum 75 frames per second. If you don't have that, then it will be a little too late. That means when you put the headset on and you rotate, if the frame is a little bit behind it, lags, then you're going to get sick. And that makes you very sick. Okay, because what that means, your body tells you look in that direction, but the eyes tell you look that direction. That's how you get sick. And if you do it for mobile, for the Gear VR, you make minimum 60 frames per second. So there's all different ways of optimization, LODs, baking, things like that. And that makes okay. But this is very important. Do ever drop frames. Keep your frame rate. And that's why it's better to have something toon shaded, such as the game, Job Simulator, because all you want is the word presence. And I don't know if you're familiar with the presence, but presence means you're connected with it. What that means is when you put your heads on it, you fully absorb it. And we're going to talk more about that. And that you forget the world and you fully absorb it. But what they see is even if it's toon shading, you get absorbed. You disconnect from the real world and you connect with the virtual world. But if the framing is not there, you disconnect right away and you feel it's just a projector in front of my eyes who makes me sick. Now, Job Simulator, if you never played it, I really encourage you to play it. You're in a world where there's no more jobs because all the computers took over the job, and you learning again from a computer how to work. It's really awesome. No, on the design advice a little bit quickly. Try to be nice to your players. Because who has ever played a VR scary game? It's really intense right away. That's why I say don't do it, because you're going to get very fast really scared. Or like falling from a cliff, things like that. Be nice to your players because they're going to leave. People who made the game, well, they absorb in it, they understand what's going to happen. But if you show them to a game, like I played some scary games, holy smokes, I left. It's like, because it's so intense. So, and I found one of the best quotes I ever seen on Twitter here. The moment I nearly threw up. Because if you make a bad VR game, it's a really bad experience. People get really sick. And try to avoid at any cost. And that's why I'm going to give a few design advices. Okay. One of those things is the concept of VR legs and VR hands. It's very strange. Okay. When you put it on, what is the first thing you see that most people do? They do this, but they have no hands. What happens? That moment is the first moment they say, it's not real. Because they don't feel anything, they don't see anything. Then they see it's a projector. That's why. That's why Oculus created those Oculus touches. Okay. That you can put, and then when you put that in front of you, you see actually your hand. When you click the button, the virtual hand will click the button too. So you have a hand presence. And that helps you really to understand the environment. And it's really good done from Oculus. You click and your virtual hand does the thumb does also this. No. Here's something else in philosophy, and it's really strange. You know when you draw a line, you stop the line and you continue the line, everybody sees it as one line in the brain. It's the same with the hand and arm. You don't need to have the arm modeled. People make the connection. If the hand is there, the arm doesn't matter. People have the connection. No, that's why I say with the VR legs, some games will put fake legs there just to have, when you look down, and you find there's somewhere solid on the ground. You're not just flying in the air. Okay? It's all things like that that slowly get improved, and we're learning from others to make better VR games. Okay. Another thing was, now we have people with different heights playing the games. It has a big impact. A nice example is this. Alchemy Labs. Now when they made the game Job Simulator, of course I'm very lucky that they had all those games before they released. So my daughter was playing. And my daughter is a little bit shorter. And my niece was only 4 years old. So she's playing the game, and there was bagels here. She wanted to grab the bagel. But my daughter could just look over the table, grab the bagel, puts it down, and then my niece comes over to play with the bagel. That's how it works. So when I provided feedback, they said, oh, we need a button to say, click for kids. And hold the environment is lower set, so that the kids could grab everything. Okay? So that's all things you're going to have to start to think about when you start to make a VR game. There's different heights. Because if you have to play a game all the time like this, you're going to get back pain. So, scaling. What if I stand here in this space and I scale the world up to bigger? So I'm like smaller. Or I want to have my game smaller, so I look from God's eye, bird's eye to my game. All those things you have to think about. How are you going to handle that? And then during the workshop today, we're going to talk about that. Because do you scale the environment? Or you scale the camera? Because if you scale the camera, that means you scale the, and the English word is the interpupil distance, I think. You're going to start to scale it. So what if you scale a negative, that the eyes split? Things like that. You all have to think about that when you make a game. And this is, if you ever played the game Lucky Tail, anybody played Lucky Tail? Okay. And Lucky Tail, there's a moment where you jump in a hole and the world is really in miniature. How they did it? Did they make another camera? No, they scaled actually the camera in a very specific way to get that effect. Okay, this is also an older slide, and I found it interesting. 2 years ago, when people were talking about VR, they said make short experiences. Make a game from 5 to max 20 minutes, and it's over. But no, I can easily play for yesterday evening I played Mountain Goat, if you know that game, VR Mountain Goat. I played it, I think I played it an hour. I'm just going to test for a second. Okay. But why was that? Well, here's a big difference. When you use mobile VR, okay, the first mobile VR, you put it on and it made you walk around. Well, your brain says, your brain says you're standing still, but the eye's telling you moving forward. Well, what happens? It's like the CPU starts to overheat, you get a headache. And so you leave the game. Also, there's in most mobile VR, there is no movement involved. Okay? So when you tilt your head, all those things don't work. So you get nauseous and sick. And that's why we said keep it to 5 to 20 minutes. But with the hardware getting better, such as the Oculus, where you actually really can have room scale VR walking around, you don't get sick. And that's why you can do much longer experiences now. Right, anybody knows Rob Pardo? Nobody knows Rob Pardo? Okay, you might have heard of a word like a tiny little game called World of Warcraft or Diablo. So Rob is the creator and the designer of those games. And he also, a long time ago, he gave me some very good advice. When the first mobile games came out, the first thing what we did was those virtual joysticks. Playing around, moving and walking around. After a while, we start to see that it's difficult. And it's not natural. And mobile games totally changed some design. Bring more tap and not have those virtual joysticks because they don't work so good. So games have to be redesigned from scratch to make it work on mobile versus using a joystick controller. And that's what Rob Pardo also said. The first thing of VR games, really start to redesign it that it works for VR. Okay. Anybody play Temple Run? Okay. I'm sure. And if I would say Bejeweled, Candy Crush. Okay. So Temple Run is a very successful game. You might not know the background. It was created by two students in North Carolina, and they moved to Washington D.C. No, they met in Washington D.C. and they moved to North Carolina. And they're married now, but they don't do anything anymore. Trust me. Okay. They calculated one time the revenue they had if they would stack up all the $1 bills of that game, and they came to I forget now. I forget now. It was multiple calls handled by one eye, and it's enhanced by two eyes. So if you don't understand how one eye works, it's harder to get that 3D aspect to it. Okay, games as Roman 360, one of those early mobile VR games. They were very smart already early on. The life, hey, it was a tower defense game. Instead of a bar here, they put it in 3D object to show how much ammo they had left. And things like that really integrated in 3D. Or here, it's Omega Agent. It's also available on the Oculus Store. Okay, so you fly around and you have to shoot things. What they did was the timer is integrated into 3D. You fly around with the spaceship. And instead of having here just a floating thing, the timer is fully integrated in the game, such as the reality, and that helps you to better connect with that. No, it's really easy in Unity when you have buttons. You can actually say, change my button to a 3D button, and it becomes a 3D object that you can place anywhere in the environment. So a lot of people use a crosshair. That means a crosshair, when you look somewhere, a little dot is following where you look at. Okay? Personally, I don't like it so much because it's like, imagine you're in real life, there's always something hanging in front of you here. the first thing you want to do is remove it. Okay. So what I've seen over time is that more and more in games, we're moving actually the crosshair. Okay. Now what we also see, if it really has to have a crosshair, a little dot to see where you look at, very smart. If you look close to an object close, they make that object bigger. If you look far, they make it smaller. In that way, you try to integrate the crosshair as a 3D object in the world. And it helps you to better understand the depth of everything. Some people do also a dwell with all little fancy things, but we will see where the future happens. Right. One of the things is vertical accelerations or horizontal accelerations is very difficult. Like you play a game, and out of the blue, I go up in an elevator. Well, you're telling your body you're standing still, but you're telling your eyes you're going up. You get sick. Or I played a game, I was sitting in my chair playing VR, and I'm in a car driving, but the car is bumpy, like right in front. But what happens? Your brain is always saying this, but you're seeing, your eyes are saying this, but your body sits still. You get very fast sick. So all those things are important to think, how can I overcome that without getting sick? Okay. So like, have anybody played Time and Space, one of the first VR games? That's when they were very smart. Time and Space, you should look at it. You fly around the solar system to understand the space, the sun, the moon. They put over the legs there, they put an object there to help you stabilize where you are. Yeah? Okay. Lucky Tale. It's a very famous game. Who's available in the Oculus Store. If you never played it, it's really cute and fun. And we can look at the camera system also, because the camera runs forward, runs around, and you use your Xbox controller to move it around. But the camera has to follow. And that's what we're going to discuss a little bit, how you control that so you don't get sick. Because if you move literally forward and backward with that camera, you're going to get sick. Lucky Tale is pretty good, but we're going to see another solution. A little bit of optimization there, you get less sick. Yeah, don't forget if you use, and this is something you have to think about. I'm gonna check. From Temple Run, if you use mobile VR, specific mobile VR, and that's a big design difference here. When you put it on, you can look any direction. Any direction. So you have to design your scene to any direction, or you use pointers like you look to the right, an arrow pops up and says, hey, look forward. If you look at some of the tutorials, we all provide that. But there is a mega difference with this. If you do high-end VR, and I put on my Oculus here, it becomes different. Put it on. What I do now, I rotate, I rotate, I rotate, I rotate. I strangle myself or I fell over. Right? So we have to really think about that, how we handle that. So that was one of the problems that they had in this game. In this game, you stand in a kitchen, and you have to grab an object there, then you have to grab an object there, you have to grab an object there. So what they did, they rechanged the design, that when you stood here, when you want to turn, okay, you're going to have to grab something here and grab something here. But when you were here, they made it in the design that they had to grab something here in order to go to there. They make sure that they didn't do this, that direction. So it was a whole design viewpoint to not to get strangled in the court. Okay? So think about that you have to think about everything, all things like that. Of course, this is also, the motion is a gesture-based, like what they did, they put a camera in front of some of the 3D hardware, and then you see, it's a movie, they film your hand, extract the background, and then put the filming of your hand into the VR application, and then track the bones. And so you can interact with environments, and one of the games I played is like literally was a physics game. Click, and with your fingers you can all do that, and it works. That was really impressive. So, which one are you going to use? Everybody is discussing that, but this is really important to also understand. Are you familiar with the input devices? Because when I gave my Xbox controller the first time to some friends who had never played, they were like, whoa, this is how many inputs are there? Eh? When you look at the auto select, auto touch, that is something impressive because I have one and I have here. And it's super simple to understand your inputs. Eh? But nobody knows what the future will hold, how easy we can have all those inputs. Are you going to sit and play? Eh? Are you going to take a chair and play it? Or you have to walk around? All those things you have to think about how the input will work. Right, like here, I like that one. Okay, this is something also I want to point out, and that's super interesting. You take the opposite touch, and you see a hand. Really great, because when you move, you see your hand, and when you click, the hand does certain gestures. But one thing they changed, and a lot of people don't notice, and I didn't notice too. I only understood it because I was talking to Alex.